It is another week, and you know what that means? Yes, more people shocked by One Punch Man Season 3 not being that great. I really do give the fans massive credits. A lot of people out there are really hoping that something good comes out of this entire adaptation, and I'm sorry, it's just not going to turn out that way. I get the whole idea that episode 5, maybe potentially, since that has the big girl fight, maybe possibly they were holding back on animation because all the animators were working on this one fight scene. I'm sorry, guys. That's just not how this works. That's just not how this works. You can get probably potentially some really talented people involved or something like that, but that's not really how this works. It's not like the entire room just shuts down for one episode. But anyways, yes, it's another week. More upset about this whole situation, but there's a few interesting things that came out of this whole situation. Yes, one being that this little boycott with Bandai Namco has really gained a lot of traction, and I'm seeing this posted everywhere. And it really had me thinking, do people really know what this means? Do people really know what it means to boycott Bandai Namco? Because I really do think that's something that is kind of immovable. It's sort of one of those situations where I appreciate that people are kind of aiming their frustration away from the creators and the animators that are trying to do their best, and aiming it more towards, yes, the people that have the pockets, the people that actually, essentially dictate what is going to be made, where it's going to be broadcasting, what their schedule is going to be set to, all that stuff. That was why, when I originally talked about this whole situation, I went immediately to this little segment on this page right here, which is the actual producers. These are the people that are really dictating when and where it's going to be broadcasting and how much they really want to invest in it. Like I said before, the idea here really is j.c.staff destroying this project. It's more towards the idea of what is the expectation for the people paying them to do it. Because in the end of the day, j.c.staff, the studio, is merely just a factory that the company comes to and says, design my product, this is how much I want to pay for it, this is my specs and everything, and this is when I want it. And the factory has to rush to get it done at that expectation. It's just like if you were to go to some random person on the side of the street and say, hey, draw me a picture within 1 minute. And then I take that picture and I give it to somebody else and they go, this is not a really good picture. Well, blame them because I gave them 1 minute to do it and they should have done it better. That's the whole idea here. These are the people involved that really make the decision. And so when I see something like this, well, I'm going to get into why I think it's probably never going to happen. I appreciate this. I appreciate really taking the concerns to the people that really made the call. Bandai Namco and all these other individuals, including TV Tokyo, Lantis, Magic Capsule, Good Smile Company. These are the people that really sat down in a room and said, we want it here and we want it now and we want it this way. And yes, what's currently broadcasting is probably to their specs. It's probably enough for them. Anyways, let's actually dig into this. What does this actually mean? Because again, like I said before, it's nice to say this. And the interesting thing that I really get from this is when I look into people talking about this, nobody really talks about what does this really mean? Yeah, you could say boycott Bandai Namco all the time, but what does it actually mean? What are you actually doing to boycott Bandai Namco? And I think there's two real big aspects of this. One being the idea that I don't think most people that are watching One Punch Man really care about anything that Bandai Namco is actually selling people. I think very few people really do actually invest in Bandai Namco. And I'll get into some actual stats. The second part is whatever people think that they can actually do is not going to have much effect on them. That's the big key thing there. And I don't want to be a doomer here. I don't want to say that you guys are wrong for doing this. If you want to boycott a brand, do it. Vote with your wallet. If you don't like what people are doing, you do not pay into their stuff. That is your freedom and you should execute on it. If you don't like what a company's doing, don't buy their products. If you don't like what something stands for, you do not have to invest in them. But what exactly does this actually mean? Let's look at the actual numbers. Let's see what it means to boycott Bandai Namco. What makes Bandai Namco really function? What fuels them and fills their pockets? Well, if we look at the actual charts, what they've actually posted, their fact book, you can see what actually makes them a lot of money. Gundam. That's their big money maker. Has anybody watching this that are a big One Punch Man fan, has any of you ever bought Gunpla? I would probably argue to say probably very few of you. And there's probably some that go, no, me. I would argue very few people buy Gunpla. I would assume there's very little overlap there. I don't really see many people that are like Gunpla fans talking about One Punch Man. And I see very few One Punch Man fans talking about Gunpla. Another one, and I could probably see a lot of overlap here, is the Dragon Ball series. Yep, That makes them a lot of money, and upwards of 140 billion yen, which that is pretty close to $1 billion. That is a lot of money. One Piece right here, 112 billion yen. There's a lot of money right here. Ultraman series, we have One Pan Man, which is a really big franchise. There is a lot here, and again, I would argue earlier, there's no One Punch Man listed here. I think One Punch Man is probably very minuscule to them and not really even charting this at all. I think the only chart that I've really seen for how successful the franchise is the mobile game, which I think charted at some point at 3 million USD. That is nothing. That is a very small drop in the bucket for everything else here. So when people do talk about like boycotting Bandai Namco, the expectation here is that you need to impact this bottom dollar. You need to stop buying Gunpla, you need to stop buying Dragon Ball, merchandise, stop buying One Piece stuff, stop watching One Piece. You have to stop buying and watching all these franchises. And the question that comes to my mind is, I wonder, how many people actually know this? How many people actually know that there's a crossover here? There's a bleed over effect here of merchandise and games and whatnot that Bandai Namco is making a lot of money on that doesn't involve One Punch Man. I don't think many people know this kind of stuff. But, like I said earlier, the biggest stinging point for me really in this idea of even boycotting is how much the West even matters to Bandai Namco. How much does all these voices in these posts, all the people posting this, how much does Bandai Namco actually care about these individuals? Because it's not much of their money. The West isn't much of their money. If you look at these charts for 2024, how much of their money is coming out of their domestic sales? 72%. America, 8.7%, which is still a lot. Don't get me wrong. 8.7% of their revenue is a massive chunk of their money. But you have to think about how much of that 8.7% even watch One Punch Man. Again, to this whole post back here, 2.7k likes and 600 retweets isn't much. And how much these people actually aren't buying into other franchises. It is sort of like an unmovable object. It is almost a, unpenetrable defense. How can you really boycott Bandai Namco? Because what they're making and how much they're making is a massive amount. And I doubt many of the people buying into this stuff really care about how One Punch Man Season 3 is turning out. Now, yes, I could say that with this in mind, the better option would be to contact Japanese fans and say, hey, help us with this boycott. And people have done that. But shockingly enough, the responses aren't very positive. It is interesting to see just how differently Japan sees this than how the West does. A lot of the Western fans and how upset they are. And then you look at these replies to a call out to Japanese fans and saying, hey, help us boycott. And they're all like, y'all are crazy. What are you talking about? Most of the replies, and this is really funny because I don't think I've ever seen this before. Most of the replies to the idea of boycotting over this are, you're a bunch of people that pirate these shows. What does it even matter to you? You don't buy into these franchises. What does it matter to you? You guys didn't support the series, so how do you expect us to care? You never bought the Blu-rays. You didn't support the franchise. So no crap, they're not going to give you good quality. And that's technically true. Back when Season 1 aired, the Blu-rays only sold like 6,000 copies. That's not good. I mean, it's good, but it's not great. I mean, you have titles that are getting 20,000 to 30,000 sales. One Punch Man Season 1, again, the Sakuga one, the amazingly animated one, the best season, only sold 6,000 copies. Now, yes, it's a hard ask to ask anime fans to go out of their way to import Japanese Blu-rays at their insane price with no English subtitles or dubs, but that's, again, technically the point of this whole thing. How do you expect Bandai Namco to invest in their property when nobody seems to want to invest in the property, or not enough people do? I know there's a lot of people that are watching this that like, dude, I have a whole bunch of merch that I bought out of Japan. Good on you. But it's the sad reality is that, again, it doesn't show in the charts. This property isn't making buko's amount of money. One Punch Man doesn't get the budget of One Piece because One Piece is the one making money. One Punch Man doesn't get the budget of a Gundam show because it doesn't make the money of Gundam. It's a franchise that is successful and people love it, but for Bandai Namco, and again, like I've shown before, all these other investors in this production committee don't feel it's worthy of having a great quality. And that's the sad reality of it. That's the big gut punch overall. Which, by the way, this does sort of show another aspect of how difficult this is to really boycott, is the fact that it's not just Bandai Namco. It's TV Tokyo, Lantis, Magic Capsule, Good Smile Company, Shueisha, JR East Marketing and Communications, Bandai Spirit, which is part of it, 80K Marketing Solutions. This is a committee of people, and Bandai Namco is one part of it. It's probably the majority investor of it, but this isn't really something that's very easy to really kind of tackle. And yes, counter to what a lot of people believe, that they can just shut down the show, stop at episode 5, and come back later with an actual production, they can't do that because people like TV Tokyo ain't gonna like that. TV Tokyo's probably investing because they have a broadcast schedule that they want that contract to be fulfilled. TV Tokyo wants to broadcast this show on their channel, and they have advertisers lined up. They can't just shut down the show and not continue it because 2,700 people are upset. It just unfortunately doesn't work that way. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, I had two things I want to talk about. The other thing I want to talk about is these poor guys. I think out of everything, I feel the most sad about Madhouse. Poor Madhouse over here, this poor social media guy is like, hey, I gotta post this web company information session. I'm gonna post this on X. And it's been bombed with a whole bunch of people yelling, please, Madhouse, take it back. Please come save my One Punch Man. Please continue One Punch Man. Please take it back. I know that a lot of people here are coping. I know there's a lot of people in the replies that are just, being silly in some ways. I feel that there's going to be a lot of people here that are just, they're being silly. But there is a side of me that also wants to kind of reiterate here, for those that don't know, Madhouse has no control over this. Madhouse is, again, it's a factory. It just takes whatever the company that comes to them wants to take. It's not like Madhouse has any control whatsoever to One Punch Man. They can't just go to j.c.staff, knock on the door and say, we'll take over from here. That would be extremely illegal. Like, they have no control over the situation whatsoever. They have no investment whatsoever. They're doing their own thing. They're like, shut up. We're making Frieren right now. Leave us alone. We don't want to make your One Punch Man show. No. There's a potential that, Bandai Namco maybe came to Madhouse and said, hey, you want to do this project? And they said, on that schedule, for that much? No. Again, to my argument that I made earlier, is a probably good chance that j.c.staff was one of the few people that would actually take the project on, and people are flaming them for it, because if it wouldn't have been taken on, it probably never would have happened. But yes, for those that don't know, Madhouse cannot take One Punch Man back. They have no control of the franchise. They don't own it. And, like I've stated before, I think this expectation that people have that Madhouse is some sort of golden goose is kind of unfounded. I've argued this before, and I'll argue again. I argue that if Madhouse took One Punch Man Season 3 at the schedule that j.c.staff is having to work under, you'd have wondons. Madhouse right now is making wondons. One Punch Man fans out there that are not, watching anything besides that wouldn't know this, but wondons isn't a good looking show. Now, there's some CGI in there that's being done by a different studio, but overall, the show doesn't look great. If Madhouse was producing One Punch Man right now, it would look like wondons. Madhouse can't make gold out of nothing. A lot of people seem to think that Madhouse has produced nothing but gold, but they have not. They have made wondons, which doesn't look good. This show, which is The Dinner Detective, doesn't look good. Gina Vai doesn't look good. Trillion Game doesn't even look that good. Orb is nothing but direction. Like, the show isn't like amazing animation quality. It's direction, some really good direction. Everybody just sees Frieren. Shoot, I'm trying to find another show that looks really good. Again, all these shows aren't like incredible. I don't know why people think that Madhouse is a golden goose. Yeah, right here. Another good looking show. Looking for another one. Style. I still don't understand why people see that. Sunny Boy has some good artistic stuff. I still don't understand why people think that because it has Madhouse on it, it's going to look gold. I guess because people don't watch Trillion Game. They didn't watch Gene of AI. They didn't watch One Dance. They didn't watch Yamada's Okay. They didn't watch the vampire dies in no time. But anyways, going back to the original point, leave Madhouse alone. These people have no control. It's fun, though. I get it. It's fun to make your voice be heard. I do appreciate that people are being at least positive towards Madhouse, not attacking them, at least for the most part that I've seen. And again, I'm glad that people are starting to shift their focus away from, the animators and whatnot that are just trying their best with what they have and moving on to, again, the people that really do technically make the calls. And I do agree with some people that, yes, it's sort of like this mixed area where it's not just the production committee, it's also sort of this big issue that's happening in the industry as a whole. Animators and people working on these projects are being stretched thin. And although you do have big major projects like Ufootable's doing and whatnot, that really does have like a lock on with a lot of animators, a lot of these studios are kind of just scrounging to get something. They're trying to get somebody to work on these projects, and it's becoming very, very difficult. It's an industry that is sort of being inundated with too much, at the same time not really supporting the people to do all that work. And so they're really stretched thin. A lot of people are just being overworked for the sake of very small pay, and at the same time, unfortunately being bombarded by people that are just being super toxic about it. Anyways, I just want to get on here, give my opinion on the whole boycott situation. I thought it was very interesting to really kind of dive in the numbers and see, can you really even boycott Bandai Namco? I really do kind of question, but I hope you guys found this video informative. Hope you found it interesting. If you did, hit the like button down below. If you like this content, you want to support more, become a member of the channel. Until next time, y'all take care.